The humid evening air of Manila clung to Miguel's skin as he stood barefoot by the bustling streets, clutching his battered guitar as though it were the last treasure left in the world. His clothes were worn, his face smudged with the day's dust, and his stomach growled quietly, reminding him that dinner was a luxury he couldn't afford tonight. Yet, in Miguel's eyes, there flickered a light that not even hunger could extinguish, the light of music, of hope, of dreams too big for the tiny corner of the world he had grown up in. Miguel was only 12 years old, but life had forced him to grow up quickly. His father had died in a construction accident when he was just a boy, and his mother worked endless hours as a laundrywoman to feed him and his younger sister, Lucia. He had learned early that survival meant sacrifice, that joy was not guaranteed, and that dreams often felt too expensive for the poor. But whenever Miguel sang, whether on the streets, in the cramped alleyways, or to comfort his sister at night, the world seemed to change. His voice carried a depth that no child his age should have known, a soulful power shaped by hardship yet softened by love. One evening, as crowds shuffled past the marketplace, Miguel stood on a makeshift wooden box and began to strum his guitar. His fingers plucked the strings with skill taught not by teachers but by years of watching, imitating, and practicing until calluses scarred his tiny hands. He sang a classic ballad, one that told of longing, loss, and love. At first, the crowd barely noticed him. People were busy bargaining, rushing, surviving. But slowly, heads began to turn. Conversations quieted. One by one, passers-by stopped in their tracks as Miguel's voice rose higher, trembling with raw emotion that reached beyond language. Among those who paused was a foreigner, a woman from the United States named Anna, a tourist traveling alone. She had been wandering the streets, soaking in the vibrant chaos of Manila, when the boy's voice cut through the noise like a prayer. She felt her chest tighten, tears forming before she even understood why. The boy was singing not just with his mouth, but with his soul. Every note seemed to carry the weight of his life, the pain of his struggles, and yet, the hope that refused to die. When Miguel finished the song, the crowd erupted into applause. Coins clattered into the small tin can at his feet, more than he had ever collected in a single night. He bowed shyly, cheeks burning red with both embarrassment and joy. But while the crowd eventually dispersed, Anna remained. Something inside her whispered that this boy's voice was meant for more than street corners. "Hi," she said softly, kneeling so her eyes met his. "You have a gift, Miguel. A gift that the world needs to hear." Miguel lowered his gaze, unsure whether to believe her. Compliments were rare, and life had taught him to doubt promises. But Anna was different. She asked about his family, his dreams, his music. She listened, not with pity, but with genuine care. And when she left that night, she left not only money in his can but also her phone number, urging him to let her help. Weeks passed, and Anna kept her word. She returned often, bringing food for his family, even paying for his sister's school fees. But most importantly, she nurtured Miguel's music. She recorded his singing on her phone and sent the videos to friends back in the US, many of whom were involved in the arts. To everyone's surprise, but not Anna's, the video went viral. People across the ocean wept listening to a boy they had never met, a boy whose voice carried both pain and beauty in equal measure. Soon, an unexpected invitation arrived. Miguel was asked to audition for a televised international talent show. At first, it felt like a dream too wild to believe. How could a boy from the slums of Manila stand on the same stage as stars? How could he leave behind the streets he had always known? Yet his mother, with tears glistening in her tired eyes, told him, "Mahal, this is not just for you. This is for all of us, for every child who dreams in silence. Go, anak. Sing." The day of the audition arrived. Miguel stood backstage, his heart pounding against his ribs as bright lights blinded his vision. The theater was enormous, filled with thousands of strangers, their whispers echoing like thunder. Cameras pointed at him, judges waited expectantly, and his hands trembled against his guitar. For a moment, doubt nearly swallowed him whole. But then he remembered his sister's smile, his mother's sacrifices, and Anna's faith. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. From the very first note, silence fell over the crowd. His voice was not just beautiful, it was haunting, dripping with emotion that no microphone could contain. He sang not to impress, but to heal, to tell a story that words alone could not. Each verse was a piece of his life, each chorus a cry for every child who had ever been overlooked. Judges who had sat through countless auditions leaned forward, captivated. Some held their breath. Some wiped away tears. And then it happened, an act that would change his life forever. One of the judges, moved beyond words, slammed the golden buzzer. The theater erupted in cheers as golden confetti rained down from above, surrounding the small barefoot boy who had just sung his way into the hearts of millions. Miguel fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed not by victory but by gratitude. Backstage, his mother clutched him tightly, sobbing, while Anna stood nearby, her eyes shimmering with pride. For the first time in a long time, Miguel felt seen, not as a poor boy from the streets, but as someone who mattered, someone whose voice could inspire the world. The competition that followed was not easy. Miguel faced talented performers from around the globe, each with their own stories and struggles. But no matter how polished or powerful their acts were, none carried the same raw soul that Miguel poured into his songs. Each performance reminded the audience that greatness can come from the most unexpected places, that even in poverty there is beauty, even in hardship there is strength. Though he did not win first place, Miguel won something far greater, the love of millions, the chance to pursue an education, and the opportunity to use his music to change lives. Offers poured in, scholarships, recording contracts, invitations to perform on stages he had once only dreamed of. Yet Miguel never forgot where he came from. With every paycheck, he helped rebuild his community, sponsored other children's schooling, and sang not for fame but for the hope of giving others the courage to believe in themselves. Years later, when asked what he remembered most about that night on stage, Miguel did not speak of the golden confetti, the applause, or even the television cameras. He spoke of a single moment, the silence just before he sang, when the world held its breath. That, he said, was when I knew my voice wasn't just mine. It belonged to every child who ever felt invisible, every mother who sacrificed everything, every soul that needed hope. My music is theirs. And so, the boy who once sang on the streets of Manila barefoot and hungry grew into a man whose voice shook stages around the world. Not because of fame, but because he never stopped singing from his soul. The world did not just hear Miguel's voice, it heard his story, his heart, his truth. And in hearing it, countless others found their own. Because sometimes, the greatest stars are born not from privilege, but from pain. Sometimes, the most powerful voices are the ones the world almost never heard. And sometimes, a poor Filipino boy's soulful singing is all it takes to remind humanity that hope, kindness, and compassion are the most beautiful songs of all.